My name is Karin Brunnemann, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about analog Mars missions. First of all, what is an analog Mars mission? Well, an analog Mars mission is a mission here on Earth where we train and prepare for going to Mars in the future. Like you prepare for any other event, you prepare for a sports event, you prepare for an exam at school, we have to prepare for a mission to Mars, and we have to do that very carefully. For this task, we actually choose locations here on Earth that are in one or the other way very similar to Mars. I am a flight planner for the Austrian Space Forum's analog mission, the Amadee 20, which will take place later this year in the Negev Desert in Israel. And this site was chosen because the desert there looks very much like what we can see on the surface of Mars if we look at it. Therefore, it's very suitable to train people for going to Mars, but also to verify the procedures, the processes that we are going to use. How is an analog mission set up? We have so-called analog astronauts. These people are chosen in a very long and intense process, almost like the examinations for real astronauts going into space. So they have to pass fitness tests, medical tests, psychological tests, and many more. So these are groups of trained people, and they're specialists in some area or areas. For example, we have medical doctors, we have biologists, we have geologists. So we have a very diverse team, and they pretend to be on Mars. They will live in a so-called habitat in the Negev Desert, and this habitat looks very similar to what a habitat might look on Moon or Mars. We don't know that yet exactly, but they are in a very confined space, and they're in absolute isolation in the desert. So there's only really these six analog astronauts, for example, in this mission, who live for a couple of weeks on Mars and perform certain tasks. They do experiments, they test spacesuit simulators, etc. So, for example, as you can imagine, wearing a spacesuit limits your ability to move around. Especially, you have to wear several pairs of gloves. So performing mechanical tasks, like you have to swap a battery in a rover, or you have to actually steer a rover, it's very difficult if you don't have your fingers free to actually feel what you're doing. So we are simulating such things and exploring how we can solve challenges like that in the future when we really go to Moon or Mars. We have several types of missions. There are special Mars simulations, there are Moon simulations, or there are general simulations of just going to space without specific targets. And during these missions, we, as I said, we perform lots of experiments. And these experiments, they can be biological experiments, they can be medical experiments. We have some psychological experiments, because we also need to make sure that once we go to Mars or to Moon and stay there for a longer time, that people are feeling well. They are not getting stressed. they are not getting homesick. They don't have conflicts among each others. So the psychological aspect is also very, very important. Basically, we have to simulate the entire life and work on Mars or on the moon. So there is just daily tasks to be done. Yeah, somebody has to make breakfast, and somebody has to clean the habitat. So it's really simulating not only the journey to Mars or to the moon, but also to have a kind of almost normal life on another planetary body. There are some experiments in analog missions, how we eat, what do we eat? Yeah, what is the best nourishment for us when we are on a long-term mission. There are experiments going on with some greenhouses where actually the analog astronauts try to grow their own salad, their own vegetables, etc., in the habitat or just outside the habitat, if that is possible. Because, of course, as humans, we can't walk around on the moon or on Mars without the spacesuit, because we can't breathe the air, because the composition is very different. So we need to be sheltered, and we need to have our oxygen supply in the spacesuit, and we have to have a temperature control, because of course Mars is very cold, and it's not advisable to walk around in minus 120 degrees. And there is also the issue of cosmic radiation, and a spacesuit kind of protects our bodies against such environmental factors. So even in an analog Mars or moon mission, the analog astronauts, when they want to go out of the habitat, they have to wear spacesuits. And it can actually take a couple of hours to actually dress up in a spacesuit. It's quite a complicated process, because it's not just a piece of garment. The spacesuit is kind of a mini spaceship that you are wearing, because it has a lot of sensors inside. It has cooling system inside. It has oxygen supply inside. It has communication connection inside. So it's really a complicated procedure to actually dress up in a spacesuit. And in these simulations, the astronauts have to go out on an extravehicular activity, we call it EVA, to go outside the habitat and perform a couple of experiments. For example, it starts with simple things like collecting some rocks or soil samples, but it can be really much more complicated, like flying helicopters or drones on the surface of Mars, and it's quite hard work, because the spacesuits, they are quite heavy. They're not so very comfortable to wear, and if you have to do hard work like digging into the ground or carrying something, the astronauts, the analog astronauts, get quite tired. And doing these analog missions helps us to understand better how to design the procedures, the processes, how to design spacesuits, how to design vehicles, and how to design the way that that humans will interact, for example, with rovers, with drones, etc. So I hope this this short introduction could give you an overview of what it's like to do an analog Mars or Moon or space mission. And it's yeah, it's been a pleasure being with you here. And I hope to see some of you actually joining on one of our missions in the future. Until then, ad astra.